At this point, ladies and gentlemen, may we call on Intramuros Administration Head, Attorney Guilherme B. Asido, to deliver his welcome remarks. Let us give him a big hand.
Mayor Francisco ISKO Moreno Dumagoso, Vice Mayor Sheila Hani Lacuna Pangan, His Excellency Geraldo Lorenzo Arredondo, Ambassador of the United Mexican States, His Excellency Stephen J. Robinson, Ambassador of Australia, His Excellency Wang Jilian, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China, His Excellency James Peter MacArthur, Ambassador of Canada, Mr. John C. Law, Chargé d'Affaires, Embassy of the United States of America, Ms. Carminda R. Arevalo, Deputy Executive Director of the National Historical Commission of the Philippines, Mr. Jeremy Barnes, Director General of the National Museum of the Philippines, Cecil Lorenzano Romero, and the Executive Director of the NPDC, and the members of the City Council. Distinguished guests, James Scott, in his book Rampage, wrote of how the battle and assault on Intramuros started. He said, "The American forces readied at dawn on February 23 for the assault on Intramuros. The ancient fortress that for more than 3 centuries had stood against invaders had become one of the major strongholds for the Japanese in Manila. An estimated 2,000 enemy troops occupied the 160-acre citadel, protected by 2.5 miles of towering stone walls that rose in places as high as 22 feet. Japanese troops had all along prepared to make a final stand in the walled city, eliminating an estimated 4,000 male civilians in recent weeks who might pose a threat during the fight. MacArthur's generals understood the challenges that awaited them. The entire army, one army report noted, was medieval in structure, and its defense combined the fortress of the Middle Ages with the firepower of modern weapons. Days after the battle ended, with hundreds of bodies found in the very grounds where we are now, structures that stood for hundreds of years as well destroyed, and all around was only the stench of war. Today, we commemorate in this hallowed ground the 76th year after the Battle of Manila, not as victors nor as enemies, but as persons with a profound sense of personal reflection of the lives lost and sacrificed during those dark days. That storm in history has passed. The tears have dried and the memories of generations lost. But the white cross that stood here in Fort Santiago remains to remind us not just of the violence, but of the lesson that war really has no victor, not just among the generation that waged it, but to the succeeding one as well. President Manuel L. Quezon, during his inaugural speech for his second term as president in 1941 in Corridor, said, "My fellow countrymen, this is the most momentous period of our history. As we face the grim realities of war, let us rededicate ourselves to the great principles of freedom and democracy for which our forefathers fought and died. The present war being fought for these same principles. It demands from us courage, determination, and unity of action. While we now face our own collective battle in this pandemic, let us remember these words and rededicate ourselves to the principles they have also fought for and died for, and face it as well with courage, determination, and unity of action." Good morning.
Once again, a warm round of applause for our venue host, the amiable man behind the success of the walled city. Thank you very much, Attorney Guilherme Asido. And now to deliver a short message and introduce our keynote speaker thereafter, may we call on the Vice Mayor of the City of Manila, the Honorable Dr. Maria Sheila Lacuna Pangan.
His Excellency Gerardo Lozano Arredondo, Ambassador of the United Mexican States, His Excellency Stephen Robinson, Ambassador of Australia, His Excellency Juan Zilian, Ambassador of the People's Republic of China, His Excellency James Peter MacArthur, Ambassador of Canada, Charge d'Affaires of the Embassy of the United States of America, Mr. John Law, our beloved Mayor, Honorable Francisco ISKO Moreno Dumagoso, honorable members of the 11th City Council, other government officials, guests, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant day to all of you. Today, we commemorate the 76th anniversary of the Battle for Manila, known to be the first and fiercest urban fighting in the entire Pacific War, which resulted to the total devastation and destruction of the old city of Manila. That part of history has long been over, yet we continue to remember those nameless and unknown Filipinos whose lives were sacrificed. Much has been learned from it, and we remember the glory of war, but not the tears it cost. Almost a year now since we confronted another war, more than 100 million lives affected, and to date, 2,222,647 have perished from more than 200 locations worldwide. This time, neither naval, nor air force, nor armies of soldiers were deployed for the battle. Instead, the medical experts, health workers, government leaders, and essential personnel were called to serve as the new patriots, ensuring lives be saved and every citizen's overcoming the burden of being trapped in community quarantine state. The war against COVID-19 continues to challenge us, and the world must come together, helping each other and extending support to one another with a common goal of ending this war against the virus. Just like all the wars the world has experienced, this too shall pass. As Confucius once said, our greatest glory is not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. During this most challenging time of the century, the city of Manila is blessed with a very strong-willed, proactive, humble, and inspirational leader. He is truly destined to be the father of 1,800,000 Manileños. And so, without further ado, it is with great pride and distinct honor to introduce to you the Chief Executive Officer of the City of Manila, the Honorable Mayor Francisco ISKO Moreno Dumagoso.
Maraming salamat sa ating minamahal na Vice Mayor Hani Lacuna. Your Excellencies, distinguished members of the Diplomatic Corps, representatives from the national government, honorable members of the City Council from 6 districts of Manila, our beloved and esteemed veterans who sadly cannot be with us this important day because of existing restrictions. City officials, employees, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are gathered here today on the 3rd day of February to mark the 76th anniversary of the Battle of Manila. This year, we managed to hold it here inside the wall of Intramuros, specifically Fort Santiago, for the reason that we wanted to give honor to the hundreds of Filipinos and American prisoners who were found lifeless inside the fort due to atrocities suffered from the hands of the perpetrators. We would also like to extend our gratitude to the Intramuros administration, headed by Attorney Guillermo Acido and his family in IA, for being such a gracious host and lending us a hand in making this commemoration possible. Intramuros, ladies and gentlemen, has so many stories to tell us. These walls around us were witness to significant chapters of our nation's history. From the time of the colonization, where it became the seat of power, to the time of our national hero being incarcerated before and being shot at Bagong Bayan, to being the mighty fortress in the Second World War. If only these walls could talk, they can share with us the gloomy and victorious experiences we had then that made us Filipinos to what we are at present. This is why I am encouraging everyone that once this pandemic is over, let us again visit these treasured walls that is a mirror of how we evolved from once a battered colony to a modern-day living museum, where we can experience the merging of the city enriched in culture and history, and yet able to keep up with the challenges of the modern-day economy. 76 years ago, the epic battle that saw the triumph of the defenders of freedom and democracy and led to the liberation of the capital city transpired. Thousands of lives were lost for the sake of the ultimate freedom that Filipinos yearn for in more than 3 centuries. Aside from the loss of lives, were the loss of public and private properties, government facilities, even the fortified walls of this fort were not spared. The iconic Manila City Hall, where I hold office, was literally shattered into pieces, rendering it useless for a number of years. We were practically crippled to our knees, and it seemed like it would be impossible for the city to recover from such devastation, which was second to Warsaw, Poland, as historians saw it when the smoke cleared. It was a very painful and excruciating experience that our forefathers had. A few of them live up to the present and came to tell us their travails, which never again would they want the current and future generations to experience. Never again would our forefathers, fought with the guardians of freedom, want to witness devastations and wanton disregard to the basic rights of human rights. The loss of lives and properties resulting to the greed for power, and world domination taught us valuable lesson, and that is for civilization to progress, only cooperation and amity among nations would be the ultimate key to global development and advancement. Ladies and gentlemen, in this day of technology and rapid urbanization, armed conflict may be a thing of the past and is a grave mark of uncivilized societies. But the challenges remain the same. We may not be threatened by a war against nations, but the battle that we have at present is a battle for survival against a dreaded virus. This is a challenge that all of us, as a community of peace, love, and enlightened economies, is facing. We now have in our midst battalions of doctors, regiments of nurses, brigades of health workers, and platoons of frontliners who are risking their lives and limbs for the sake of the virus to be contained, not to spread further. They are no different to the heroes of the past. They also have done so much sacrifice for the sake of our safety and our country. Dangers they are facing is tantamount to loss of life, as we witness occurred already. This is why we are giving recognition to heroes of the past, and I am rendering my snappy salute to all of the health workers who lost their lives in the fight against COVID-19. No amount of thanks and gratitude could equal the act of patriotism that you have done for the sake of our fellow countrymen. The city and every Batang Maynila will always be proud of you. This is also the opportune time for me, as your mayor, to continuously remind each and everyone that the government cannot do it on its own. Even if the vaccine is just within our reach, even with the continued enforcement of quarantine restriction, we should still take utmost care of ourselves. The self-care that we practice is an expression of love that we have for our family and loved ones, and even to our country. Self-preservation in these trying times is protecting the lives of persons dear to us. Please, my fellow Manileños, my fellow Filipinos, let us give our help and support to the government in the fight against this virus. And soon, I am firm in my belief that just like what the war that we had experienced 76 years ago, we will all come up as victors. This country and our city will be strong again as ever. The lessons we had from acrimonious experiences may be a bitter pill for us to swallow. The war, the pandemic, and all other unfortunate events in our history. But these are the significant chapters of our lives that taught us valuable lessons as a person, as a country, and as a community of nations. And that is for everything to succeed, we should forego our personal desires and ultimately have genuine concern to our brothers and sisters, and even to our neighboring nations. As we all embrace the drift towards globalization, we should also have a grip of the reality of the need to take care of each other. And with God's help, we will all succeed. May awa ang Diyos. Makakaraos din tayo. Mag-ingat po kayo. Maging takdang aral at leksyon sa buhay natin sa mga darating na araw sa nangyari sa nagdaan. Mahal ko po kayo. Mahal po kayo ng pamahalaan. Pipilitin namin maging mainam, masinop, at epesyenteng paglingkuran kayo sa kasagsagan ng pandemyang ito. Hindi namin kayo iiwan. Magiging gabay nyo kami sa araw-araw. At darating ang oras, makararaos din tayo. Kapit lang. Kapit lang. Walang bibitaw. Magandang umaga. Palain nawa kayo ng pong may kapal. Manila, God first.